Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and welcome back to another live session on YouTube. That's my Caribbean News Flash channel. Thank you so much for joining. The, the title for our conversation today is U.S. Forces Seize Oil Tanker Near Venezuela. What does this mean for the Caribbean? That is the title of our topic afternoon. Now, good afternoon again, Caribbean family. Tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, we have a very serious development unfolding right on our doorstep. The United States has seized an oil tanker near the coast of Venezuela. And this is not just another headline. This is a major escalation in a region where tensions were already rising. Anytime Washington moves military assets this close to Venezuela, the entire Caribbean needs to pay attention. And that is true, right? We need to pay attention. Anytime you see warships and you see where the United States is intercepting vessels, as they did with the tanker, we have to pay attention because this is serious business. Not just Venezuela, not just the United States, but Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica, Barbados, the Dominican Republic, all of us could feel the impact of what happens next. This is all about oil. And this is about the Caribbean being caught in the middle of a global fight between superpowers. This afternoon, we're going to break down why the US seized this tanker, how Venezuela is likely to respond, and most importantly, what this means for the stability and the security of the Caribbean going forward. This is not a small story. This is a potential turning point. Stay as we discuss this very important topical matter. Now, we woke up yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday, to have learned that the United States actually seized a tanker oil off the coast of Venezuela. And for this reason, we ought to be concerned because that oil, I understand, the tanker was heading towards Cuba. Now, we know that the United States has had for many years the diplomatic blockade on Cuba. And the fact that the United States is preventing a tanker oil to go to Cuba suggests that something is amiss here. But those people who have been talking against what the United States is doing in terms of effectuating regime change in Venezuela have already been saying that the United States' eyes are not just on Venezuela, should the regime be changed, should the regime be toppled, but it's also the United States has her eyes on Cuba and Nicaragua. As a matter of fact, she has her eyes on any regime in the region which decides not to follow, not to toe the line with US hegemony. Now, this is something very important that we should understand, something that we should grasp. How is it now that we can have sovereign states, sovereign nations, when the United States is meddling in our internal affairs as regards those whom we can trade with and those whom we cannot trade with? Because obviously, the United States has all the rights if it wants not to trade with Venezuela. That is the United States' rights to do so. However, when it now forbids other countries and deny them their right to trade with Venezuela, or for Venezuela to trade with other countries, something is definitely wrong with that. All right. And we have to begin to ask our questions. Are we really free? Are we living in sovereign nations, in sovereign states? That is what we have to ask ourselves. And if we can't ask ourselves that question, I think something is rather amiss here. And we need to get our thoughts together. Because the fact that you're having a tanker going to Cuba and then you are going to intercept it and take the oil away suggests that something is wrong. And that is stealing. There's no other way to describe it openly but that this is stealing, that the United States has stolen somebody else's product, right? And what if Venezuela were to have stolen a tanker with oil, an oil tanker from the United States? How would they have treated a similar situation? Would they have allowed Venezuela to have gotten scot-free? Or would they have gone to the United Nations and to the international organization, the multilateral organizations, to retrieve that which Venezuela would have stolen from them? Now, Trump is suggesting, when the journalists asked him, so what happens to this oil that was actually intercepted? He said that, well, we might sell it. We don't know what we're going to do with it, but we might sell it. Now, how can you sell something that does not belong to you? How can you sell something that does not belong to you? And we as citizens should ensure that we are voicing our displeasure at what has just taken place. Because oil is something needed, and if it were going to the island of Cuba, then the United States should not have any rights to have intercepted it, right? No rights whatsoever to have intercepted such a vessel, such a tanker. But that's what the United States did. Now, there are lots of things that we can look at in terms of where we're going with this sort of, aggression in the Caribbean, United States aggression in the Caribbean region. We see that war is on the horizon. The fact that the United States is being so aggressive in terms of the striking of the boats, in terms of implementing radar systems within the region, okay? It is evident that the United States is definitely building up the war rhetoric, is escalating the war rhetoric. And we're not hearing much coming from our prime ministers in the region in terms of what does this portend for the region and where do we move from here. There is not much that is coming out of the mouths of our prime ministers and our leaders or political leaders. It's silence. It is silence, deafening silence, as it were. Now, how can we move forward? How are we going to move forward with such an arrangement or with such a practice in terms of the United States can intercept, can strike boats at its own whim? Now, without due process, without, acceding to the tenets of international law? How are we going to survive as a people, as a region? And I don't think many people are taking this seriously. I think that, we are not so much concerned that this is something that defies international law. Right? This is something that defies international law. But guess what? I think at this point in time, the citizens of the Caribbean are so much caught up in so many distractions that I don't think the fact that the United States has actually intercepted an oil tanker means anything to us. Until it begins to affect us, I don't think that we think that this is something that we need to be aware of and that we need to challenge. I don't think so. I think that we believe that this is something that we should take lightly, when it's not that we should take this lightly. This is something that is fundamentally serious, and it has to do with our sovereignty. It has to do with our sovereignty. And if Venezuela cannot send a tank of oil, right, to the country with which it likes to trade, I think something is fundamentally wrong and we have lost our sovereignty. So I think that what this is telling us is that fundamentally we have lost our national sovereignty as a region. And we've got to make sure that we get our acts together. Now, this morning, we woke up today also from the Guardian newspaper, the Trinidad Guardian, says that ganja hauled in Caroni Swamp. U.S. installed radar guides TTPS to 171 million drug stash in mangrove hideaway. Is it hideaway? Yeah, hideaway. Now we have that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, that's the TTPS, made a significant dent in the drug trade after recovering 1,560 kilograms of creepy marijuana with an estimated street value of 171,205,320 in the Caroni Swamp on Wednesday night. This is a whole lot of drugs. More significantly was the fact that the intelligence reportedly came via the US installed radar at Crown Point, Tobago. So already they're making to us the pretext, an excuse that, oh, well, those who are against the radar facility, the radar surveillance facility that has been installed at the ANR Robinson International Airport at Crown Point in Tobago, if you are against such an installment, here we have now for ourselves. We've got for ourselves, we can see how effective that that this radar system is for the people. Very effective radar system is for the people. We can see it. And that is what they're implying to us. But how coincidental it is now that people have been remonstrating in Trinidad and Tobago about the radar system that has been installed without their permission, basically, without the people's permission, because it seemed to have been secretly installed. But they're now telling us, okay, as a result of that, we have interdicted this whole amount of drugs. So it's effective. The radar equipment is effective. And whether you want it or not, this is to clear the region of drug trafficking. The operation involved the multi-option police section, that's the MOPS, of the Special Branch, the Coastal and Air Support Unit, CASU, the Special Investigations Unit, and other investigative, tactical, and intelligence teams, a TTPS release said yesterday. It said officers navigated the mangroves overnight to cover the stashed cargo, which was transported to Charaguamas heliport yesterday for processing by SIU and CSI. However, no arrests were made and investigations are continuing. Okay, so they always have to do these things. Whenever they do things and we don't want them, they often have to say, oh, here, see, it's helping, right? And the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago are waking up to hear now that they have interdicted, they have intercepted huge quantities of drugs, marijuana to be specific, because of the security apparatus, the satellite that was installed, that has been installed at the ANR Robinson International Airport. So that is something very interesting. That is something. But didn't we expect them to do that? Because that's what they always do. They always create these pretexts and then they say, well, that here, look at that. Had we not installed it, then we would not have been able to have taken care of and to dismantle the large quantities of drugs seen there in the mangrove area. That's what they're going to say. And that's what they're saying at this point. We just have to be very alert. Now, there's another situation coming out of Trinidad this morning. In the Venezuelan minister, Trinidad used to belong to Venezuela. So we have the Diosdado Cabello, that's a Venezuelan minister, and he's the Minister of Justice. He's suggesting that Trinidad used to belong to Venezuela. Now, I don't find anything wrong with that statement. It used to. It's no longer, but it used to belong to Venezuela. Remember now that the Spanish people were the ones who pretty much controlled the entire Western Hemisphere. But when the British and the French and other people came here, other Europeans, then they arrested some of these territories from these competitors, from these European competitors. Okay. Now, it seems to me that the fact that Trinidad is so close to Venezuela, it would not be surprising if it's in history that Venezuela used to, that Trinidad used to be a territory or a part of Venezuela. So were, Colombia, all of these territories, Venezuela, were a part of Colombia, right? Panama, they were all a part of Colombia. So they used to be, but they're no longer. And that is what we have to understand. They're no longer a part, Trinidad and Tobago are no longer a part of Venezuela. They are separate, independent nations. Languages are different also. Okay? That's what we need to understand. But it used to be, nothing is wrong with that statement. I think other papers thought the translation said that they are a part, but that is not true. They are a part or were a part, used to be a part of, so we're saying that Trinidad used to be a part of Venezuela. So we have here that they're saying Venezuelan Justice Minister Diosdado Cabello Rondon has issued a warning to Trinidad and Tobago, reminding that the country was once part of its territory. Cabello made the statement during his weekly television program in the aftermath of the seizure of an oil tanker by U.S. forces near the coast of Venezuela yesterday, which it claims it had previously sanctioned for transporting illegal oil. Cabello repeated the Venezuelan government's denouncement of the U.S.'s seizure as an act of theft and piracy, and later, while leading regional headlines, halted to deliver a message to Trinidad and Guyana. He said that both countries were aiming to attack Venezuela, but said that such countries would dry out. That's what they are up to from Trinidad, from Guyana, trying to attack Venezuela. Whoever messes with Venezuela dries up, dries out. And that won't be for 3 days. That won't be for 3 days. Trinidad used to belong to Venezuela, by the way, just a comment, he said. So he's trying to here be facetious, right? And saying that after all, he used to be a part of Venezuela. So why are you trying to attack us? Right? But I don't think that Venezuela is going to attack Trinidad. I just think that it's a statement that he just wants to let them know that he's not afraid and we were once brotherly, sisterly nations. Why are we trying now to disunite? Why we're allowing the empire to disunite us? But I don't think that the Minister of Justice in Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, wishes to suggest that he is going to invade Trinidad or invade Guyana. I don't think that that's what he's suggesting. I just think that what he is saying here is that we used to be neighbors. We are brothers and sisters. Why are we now? Why is Trinidad, why is Guyana seeking to betray us? I think that is what these words imply. But I know that people are going to be running now and, wow, I told you that Venezuela wanted to invade Trinidad, or Venezuela wanted to invade Guyana. But that is not true. And I'm sure that many people are going to misinterpret what Diosdado Cabello said. But I don't think that he's suggesting that Venezuela desires to invade Trinidad and Guyana. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen, right? That is what I think. It will never happen, that they are going to do something of that nature. Okay? So that is what we have here. Also a situation in which, where am I now? I'm going to end the live soon because nobody's here. So I'll leave it for you you can replay it and watch it. I'm not going to waste my time on the live and you're not here. Okay, so I will end this very shortly. And that is what it is. I want to come on the live and say to you, this is what has happened. These are we have no, what you call it now, sovereign states anymore. The US can do whatever it wants to do. Okay. And just to let you know that Guyana and Trinidad, Venezuela is not necessarily interested in occupying your territory. Okay. Now, I wish you were here. I was doing the live for you. You didn't come, you didn't show up. So I am going to end the live now. I am not going to waste my time. you can do the replay. I'll catch you at another time. All the best to you. Bye bye.